All right, if everyone would assemble here and be silent for a moment, please.
On behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your everyone's honorable and faithful service.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? No, okay. Some say yes, some say no. Before we begin our service, I want to invite you, on behalf of the family, to visit with them, to sit with them, to help comfort them at 5277 Chickadee Lane today at Lyndhurst until 8 p.m. And tomorrow they'll be having visitation from 1 to 6 p.m. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long after that star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved, and memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. We remember. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death is a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting. As we begin our service, it is customary to tear the ribbon that each mourner is wearing. This is a biblical tradition. Our ancestors used to tear their clothing. We do this as a symbolic gesture of the tear that we feel in our hearts. So I'm going to ask the mourners to please rise if they're able. Lois wants to sit. She can't.
You want to stay seated? You want to stay seated? Okay, whatever. So you're going to grab the bottom of your ribbon and you're going to pull it up like this, tear it in half upward. I will help you. So repeat these words: Baruch,
Baruch,
Atah,
Atah,
Adonai,
Adonai,
Eloheinu,
Eloheinu,
Melech,
Melech,
Haolam,
Haolam,
Dayan,
Dayan,
Ha'amet.
Ha'amet.
We praise you, Lord, our God, sovereign of the universe, the true judge. This is how we begin our morning and reading process. Be seated, maybe.
To Ken and Tammy, to Rick, Corey, to Sherry and Alex, to Merle's grandchildren, Allison, Kyle and Kristen, Chad and Madison, Austin and Catherine, to Colton, Chase, Rebecca, and Brock, to his cherished grandchildren, Noel, Nevaeh,
Great.
Knight, to Nala, to Bentley, and to Kaysen, to Merle's dear sister Lois and Fred, to his nieces and his nephews, all of his relatives and dear friends. We offer you our deepest condolences on the loss of your beloved Murel. Together with him, each of you in your own way created a lifetime of memories filled with joys and blessings, including the ups and downs and challenges and disappointments that inevitably occur during a lifetime. But all of that was shared with love and with respect for the man that you called Dad, Grandpa, Great-Grandpa, Uncle, Brother. Through our sadness today at Murel's passing, we begin to look for comfort in the words from our tradition. Our sages tell of a conference among the trees and of the decision of the trees to select a king who would rule over all of them. They sent a delegation to a shade tree, which bore no fruit. The delegation inquired, "Why do you make so much noise when the wind blows?" And the tree replied, "The only way that I will be known is by making a lot of noise." They turned to a fruit-bearing tree and asked it, "Tell us, why are you so quiet? Why do you not let yourself be known? Even when the wind blows through your branches, you are silent." And the fruit-bearing tree replied, "I do not need to make a lot of noise to call attention to myself. My fruits testify for me." In this fable, our rabbis were telling us that there are two types of people. There are people who make a lot of noise, who demand recognition and honor, because otherwise they fear they would have little to recommend them. And there is also another type. There are people who are quiet and modest, and yet full of kindness and love, and they need not clamor to call attention to themselves. Murel was such a person. He was quiet, he was kind, he was a person of character, and he lived a fruitful life surrounded by loving family, his friends, and his devoted canine, Lucky. The Yisker memorial prayer characterizes a father as Avi Mori, my father, my teacher. For tradition values above all else the father's role as the teacher of his children. The outlook, the attitudes and values that he imparts result in the shaping of lives and of character in a way that is far more effective than is possible in any formal classroom. With that in mind, I invite his son Rick to share some thoughts and memories of his dad with us now.
My dad and I used to come here all the time the last few years to pay respects to my mom and other family members. And the last few times, he never got out of the car, but because he knew that he would be here one day next to my mom. So here we are together again, Dad. Only this time you have a different view. Military honor, salute, folding of the flag. That was pretty cool. Thank you, military members, if you're still here. One interesting story that I always heard about my dad being in the service was he was on the ship with Elvis Presley going over to Germany, and how I heard that story so many times was my mom used to smack him and say, "Schmuck, why weren't you part of his posse? Why couldn't you be friends with him? Look where we could be now." Yeah, she said that a lot. I jotted down some notes. I don't know if it's gonna come out the way that it's in my head and the way that I wrote them, but I'll do my best. So I'm Rick. I'm Murel's middle child, and I was his favorite child, and that is documented because the night before he passed, there was a nurse that came to the house, and I don't know what you call it medically, but she just was asking him questions to see if he knew where he was, what's his address, what's his name. And then the last question was, who is your favorite child? And he said, Rick. So, it's verified. There it is. But I want to thank everybody for coming and honoring our dad and helping us say goodbye to him. So let me describe my dad. He was very simple, quiet, private guy, sarcastic and snarky. He worked his ass off. And, you know, that work ethic really is instilled in me, and I think I took that from him for sure. He was not really a great conversationalist on the phone. Phone calls were like, I don't know, 20 seconds max. And they would go something like this, hey, how's the weather? So what else is going on? What else is going on? And all he really wanted to know about was the weather, but he was kind of like, you know, asking me to do the talking and bring up the topics. So really, I would just follow up and ask him, Dad, how do you feel? And he'd say, I feel with my fingers and my hands. I said, okay, I've heard that a million times, but really tell me how you feel. If you got him one-on-one, he would really open up and talk to you. But in the group setting, you know, he was just, you know, off on his own, and he was going to mind his own business and just listen and observe. My dad was a really stubborn guy. I remember a time where we were at a Harvey's restaurant in, I don't know if it's University Heights or Southview, but I'm not even sure, but, and us kids were acting up in the restaurant, and he got up and left. Where are you going, Murel? I'm walking home. I can't stand, these kids are out of control. I'm walking home. So we didn't finish our meal, obviously. We had to like pack everything up and get in the car, and we're driving home, and there's my dad walking. It was like a 2.5 mile commute. There he is walking. Just roll the window down. Murel, get in the car. And I know I was saying, no, don't get in the car. Because if he got in the car, we were gonna get hammered. So yeah, he was stubborn. He walked all the way home, sure enough, and I don't remember what happened once he got home, but we probably got strapped and got our asses whipped. Things my dad loved. Well, he loved Cleveland sports. Huge Browns fan, huge Indians fan, and even if they had a great game and they won, or if they were in first place, he'd say that they still stunk. So, yeah, couldn't really please him unless they wanted World Series or Super Bowl, which none of them ever did in his lifetime. My dad used to watch Westerns like all the time, all day long. Westerns. And I don't know what his favorite number was, but I think it was in the 50s, because the volume level on the remote was in the 50s all the time, and he just couldn't really hear anything other than those Westerns, right, Johnson? Yeah. When he came to visit me in South Carolina, I like streamed my TV service, and we had like these 24-hour, 24/7 channels. So other things that he would watch was Hogan's Heroes, MacGyver, and the $6 Million Man. Don't ask me why. My dad loved to eat. His favorite meal was the one that somebody else was paying for. Old alligator arms. You know, he didn't really pull out his wallet, but if he wanted to take you to breakfast, then you knew that that was a sign of his love, and that was really the only meal he paid for, and I think it was probably because it was the least expensive one I ever ate. His favorite meal definitely was breakfast, for sure, but other foods that my dad loved: steak, crab legs. He loved shrimp, even though he was highly allergic to shrimp and would break out in hives. He didn't care, man. He dipped that shrimp in that crabs, that cocktail sauce, and he just went to town. So yeah, he had a very interesting palate. His go-to meal was bananas and sour cream. Right? He,
sugar on top.
Sugar on top, that's right. But he also loved Jewish rye bread, only from Davis Bakery. And as a matter of fact, my sister used to try to trick him and bring rye bread from other stores, you know, other bakeries. And he'd be like, no, this is not Davis's. And she'd say,
And Ken did too one time.
Yeah, right. But he just wouldn't, those breads would like go to waste because it wasn't Davis rye. He also liked the challah bread from Davis as well. He wasn't much of a drinker, but for sure his favorite drink was whiskey sour, extra sweet, with 2 cherries. My dad was great at 3 things, and when you're great at something, you want to teach people, like your children. So he was great at plumbing, bowling, and baseball. With plumbing, he taught me that work ethic and how to plunge a toilet, snake a toilet, solder joints. Austin, Kyle, and Chase solder joints, not roll joints. Solder. Bowling, he was always in a bowling league, like year round. He taught me how to hold the ball, line it up, make a split. How to keep the score. And in baseball, he was a very self-proclaimed athlete. Tremendous baseball player. If it wasn't for him having to help his family growing up, the Indians definitely would have signed him, according to him. And I believe that because, I was very athletic, my brother was too, my children, grandchildren, so I think he started the legacy for great athletes in our family. There was something that my dad wasn't great at, and he didn't teach me how to comb my hair because he didn't know how to comb his. My mom used to scream at him all the time, Murel, comb your hair. My dad was not a ladies' man, but there were 9 ladies that loved on him and that were very important to him. And this is like in chronological order from like these last days going back in time. Jocelyn, you started off being his caregiver, but ended up becoming a part of our family, and you were more of a companion to my father. You were there every day, on time, actually before on time. You were there before 8 o'clock. And you would wake him up, cook him breakfast, groom him, shower him, and did his laundry, cleaned his house, took him to doctor's appointments, and gave him the nickname Murley Poo. So in the last year or so, my dad was affectionately known as Murley Poo. Thank you very much, and we are forever grateful to you. Corey, my girlfriend, the last 6 years, you really got to know my dad a lot. We had some great conversations with him, shared some great meals, of course, did some fun activities. We actually took my dad bowling a couple of years ago. And he's like, nah, I told you he was stubborn. Nah, I'm not getting up there. Come on, Dad. When's the last time you threw a bowling ball? 40 years ago. Come on, let's go. And I had that little sled thing, the little kids use, put the ball on. I'm not using that damn thing. All right, go ahead. Threw 2 gutter balls and that was it. He was done. You were a huge support to me and my family with his home health care and Planet Care. And my ex-wife, Catherine, you treated my dad like he was your own father. Called him Dad. You kept that relationship with him even after our divorce. Always asked about him and wanted to stay in touch with him, and I thank you for that. My sister-in-law Tammy, been a part of our family for, 50 years or so. Loving daughter-in-law, and I'm sure you have so many memories and stories that you could share. I just thank you for being in my dad's life as well. Many of you may not know this, but my dad actually remarried a few years after my mom passed, and that didn't really work out too well. But what I want to say about that relationship was I think he thought about his first relationship with my mom. He was never really affectionate or home or around that much, but he learned how to love somebody and outwardly express his emotions. I'd never heard my dad say I love you. I never never saw my dad hold my mom's hand, but with this woman he did. And his little dog, Lucky, I would be in the other room and I would visit him, and Lucky would come check on him, and I hear my dad say, "I love you, baby. Lucky, I love you. You mean so much to me." And I'm sitting thinking, that's my dad. And Lucky, they would pee in unison. Lucky would pee on the little mat, and my dad would pee on the bucket. That's how close they were. My Aunt Lois, you were the only girl in your family. That must have been extremely tough with 3 brothers. I'm sure Allison and Becca can relate to that. But you had a special bond with my dad, and I want to thank you as well. My Aunt Bernice. Oh, man. You and my mom and dad, and Uncle David, you guys did everything together. Huge support for both of them. I just way too many things to list, and just want to thank you, Sally. My sister Sherry. I'm almost done with the ladies in his life. There's only 9. My sister Sherry is 8 here. Wow. Not enough words, Sherry. You lived the closest to him, and you were there at the drop of a hat. When he needed somebody, he would call you. And even though you guys fought like crazy, he used to leave her voicemail. "Sherry, if you don't call me back, I'm never talking to you again." Just forget, me on voicemails, But she was a real constant in my dad's life. When my mom passed away, she did everything for him. And thank you for being there to help him so much. And Ken and I, weren't as close to him proximity-wise and could get there. My mom, she loved him unconditionally. It was my dad's first love. They were married, 48 years, something like that. My dad was like another child of hers, for sure. She told him what to wear, what to do, how to do it, where to go, when to go, and always reminded him to comb his hair. It's a funny story about my mom that I always used to laugh at. So my dad's first love was my mom, but his second love was like the plumbing supply house. And he used to have a line of credit there, right? And he'd do these side jobs and get paid in cash, and he'd stash the cash in the drawer. And then at the end of the month, his bill was due, and he had to pay the supply house, and the money wasn't there. And they used to fight like crazy, and my mom was like, "Man, Murel, I had the electric bill, the kids needed shoes, we had to eat then," or whatever it was. But she didn't give a damn about the supply house. She took that side job money and spent it on us and herself. So anyway, there were also 3 guys, besides these 9 ladies, 3 guys that were had special bonds with my dad. My brother-in-law Alex, man, you did the biggest deed ever for him. You took my sister off of his hands, you married Sherry. We are all forever grateful to that, but man, you were there for my dad a lot, and did side jobs with him, and anytime he had a project in the house, I didn't know a damn thing about sledging a hammer or sawing wood, and he'd call you, and yeah, you were there, man. Thank you. There's a guy named Greg Patron, who was a neighbor of ours when we were little kids, and he had a sprinkler business called Rainbow Sprinklers. And although my dad might have been slower than some of the other plumbers, that he could have hired anybody. He used to call my dad and keep him so busy. And then when he would come into town, he would take my dad out to dinner. And of course, he would pay because my dad never put the wallet out, right? So my dad loved when he came into town.
Get them wasted too.
Yeah, who had the whiskey sours, right? Jerry Mintz. Jerry, where are you?
Here.
Hi, Jerry. You're one of the 3 guys that, man, you guys had a 50-plus year relationship, friends, neighbors. You would come over and visit with my dad and try to get him out of his house because he just never wanted to leave his house, but you did. You were successful at it, and you took him out. And a funny story about you, Jerry, just last week. Like I was visiting my dad last week, and he's in his bedroom. I hated him being in his bedroom. his bedroom. So his window looks back to your backyard, right? I'd say, Dad, Jerry's out there doing some pull-ups. He's out there doing some push-ups. Come on, Dad, you gotta get out there, you know, and try to equal what he's doing. Now he's doing one-handed push-ups. My dad said, I don't care if he had 4 hands, he wasn't doing any push-ups. But anyway, thank you for being that close to my dad. So I'm gonna wrap this up now. I got to know my dad more in the last 2 years than I did in the first 58 years, to be honest. I'll cherish our moments together. We built so many memories that I'll never forget. Took a lot of pictures that I hold on to with myself, my children, my grandson. And I'm going to end this with two comments. When my sister Sherry was at his house, and she'd get him on FaceTime so I could see him and talk to him, we would sign off every conversation with deuces. And he never knew how to put his fingers on deuces, you know. And so that was our sign off. So deuces, Dad, deuces. The last words of his life to the nurses in the hospice care center was, I'm tired, it's time to go to sleep, my wife is calling me, and those were his last words. So now you're back together, living in eternity together. I will greatly miss you, I love you. Hopefully my children, my grandchildren will live our lives here on earth, continuing to make you proud of all of us. Rest in peace, Dad. I love you.
I don't know how I'm gonna follow that. I'm gonna try. You guys hear me okay? Okay, first, some of this may overlap, so I'll apologize for that now. A couple thank yous first. Jocelyn, I too want to thank you. I can't say it any better than Rick did. I mean, you were a special person to my dad and provided tremendous comfort and help. Can't thank you enough, so thank you. Sherry.
You got it right there.
You're gonna make me cry. No, maybe not. I mean, you sincere. I mean, you carried the huge load. Rick in South Carolina, me in North Canton, me just being more unwilling than anything else, honestly. So I want to thank you because it means a lot. And Laurel, thank you also. I want to read a letter that I got from Mel Alfred, who was my dad's best friend in high school. If I can find it.
That's why I didn't use the phone.
Get with the technology. Come on. Okay, here it is. Again, Mel Afrin, I believe he lives in Vermont, maybe New York, I can't remember. Anyways, Murel was my best friend through high school and after graduation. He was more athletic than I was. Okay. He was a great football catcher. He could catch a football over his shoulder running full speed. We often played catch under the street lights and in the backyards. He was always the athlete. After graduation, we kind of went our own ways. I got married in 1957. Murel was my best man. His future wife, Marilyn, accompanied him. Murel joined the Air Force and to Germany. I think it was the Army, but he said Air Force, whatever. I envied him and his commitment. He was proud of his service. I remember the high fidelity radio he brought back from Germany, a first of the time. I went on to school and later moved to Rochester, New York. Murel followed the role of both his brothers and became a journeyman plumber. I stayed in touch with him and the family over the years. He was a mensch, which I believe means a man of character. I had to Google it. So thanks to Google also. And it was Mel Efron. So I want to start off by talking about a few things people probably don't know, and this is very annoying, by the way. My dad was an inventor.
You can tuck it up.
Move your-
Yeah, tuck it up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was,
My dad invented the one-way phone. It only received calls, it would not make outbound calls. He also invented the TV show Worst Cooks in America. That started after him, but his most famous invention is the plumber's crack.
Oh, God.
He invented the plumber's crack, which we had to see a lot of growing up. So getting a little more serious for a minute, and Rick said it really well. You know, my dad was a really hard worker. And I'm gonna come back to why this is important towards the end, but, you know, I think that we took some of the things that were the result of his hard work, like we called them rock hands, stone hands. They were hard from working, you know, using tools. They were dirty all the time because he was dealing with plumber's putty or pipe dope or whatever it might have been. So the hands were always dirty. We made fun of his hands. He was exhausted all the time when he would come home. And of course, we would make fun of that. He had this thing we called the perch, which is where he would sit, his chair, he would sit and pass out, and we would make fun of that. Now I have my own perch, by the way, that's another story. But the other thing about him was he was also very willing to help. He was a hard worker, undisputed, hardest working man I think I've ever seen. But the flip side of that is, you know, if we ever needed anything, he would be the first to come down, drop of a hat. I can remember we moved into our first house that we bought, and I just was reminded of this actually because I had some old tapes made to digital, and he's down at our new house, and I'm videotaping him do all the work. I mean, I was doing nothing. He was doing it all. He was putting up ceiling fans, fixing plumbing, fixing the floors. Tammy was cleaning up his mess. I was taking videotape, and you know, washing my cars. So he's always willing to help. So the two things, and I'm going to circle back to this a little bit, were hard work, willing to help. One story that I want to tell that I remember really well involved him coaching baseball. He loved to coach baseball. He coached Rick and I. My joke was who really was the coach. I always claimed it was me. I would make the lineups. I would tell him what to do. Anyways, one day we're at a game and I'm pitching and I'm probably not doing really well. I did throw the ball 100 miles an hour. There was no radar gun back there, but I'm just going to say I did. And I think I was walking batters, and he was yelling at me from the bench. Walk one more batter and you're coming out. I said, I'll come out when I want to come out. I'm yelling from the pitcher's mound at him, coaching. You're coming out, one more batter, you're coming out. So he's getting angry, whatever. Anyways, something happens in the game where he now gets into it with the umpire, and I think the eye started his anger, and the umpire kicks him out of the game. Murel doesn't shut up. The umpire kicked him out of the park. Murel doesn't shut up. The umpire says, you're kicked out of the city. Which obviously they can't enforce that, but anyways, he got kicked out. So, how the story ends is, obviously he wasn't real happy, probably like the Harvey's trip. We get home, and he starts chasing me around the yard. So I had to outlast him. So we kept running around this yard, and then finally till I wore him out, and he was too tired to keep chasing after me. And I think I waited a while, let him calm down before I entered the house. I honestly don't remember what happened after that, but I remember the game and I remember the chase. And that was just kind of, that was indicative of, I think, of our relationship, way more contentious than Rick and my dad. You know, I thought I was smarter than everybody, including him, and I think that was, you know, maybe with a lot of relationships, but certainly with him, it interfered to some extent. So anyways, I want to kind of circle back because I was thinking about this, you know, try to take a lesson. What's the legacy of Murel? What lessons do we learn from Murel? And for me, it's this, and I'm coming back now to the hard work and to the helping others, is that sometimes we see something that we're poking fun of, but it's really indicative of something else that they're offering. So making fun of the rock hands, the tiredness, and although appreciating the help, but really not appreciating the help. You know, the things that we take for granted And really what was underneath all of that, and I think this is Murel's legacy, is, you know, look, if you are poking fun at somebody, look at why you're doing that, because maybe they're teaching you something that you really should be paying attention to, like hard work and sacrifice. That's what he did. He sacrificed. He didn't want anything. If my mom wanted a Cadillac, he'd buy her a Cadillac, but that's not because he wanted the Cadillac, she wanted the Cadillac. So he was sacrificing, working hard, providing for us. We never went without, and he was always willing to help. So what I hope that everybody here takes from Murel in his life is that, you know, look at, you know, people around you and what they're offering, and don't take it for granted. If you're poking fun of it, to just be in jest, maybe that's one thing, but maybe take a look deeper at why you're doing that and what they're offering, because I'll you know, take from my dad, you know, the hard work, the sacrifice, and providing, as you know, I hope I do that with my kids and my family, the grandkids, and that's what I think is important. I think that's Murel's legacy. So I'm just going to close with this, and it's kind of picking up with what Rick said. Legacy is hard work. Legacy is giving to others and helping. One thing, just you can never expect them to pick up a check. Wasn't happening. And to make it worse, I don't know if you said this or not, he would pick the most expensive thing on the menu, no matter whether you really wanted it or not, because you were paying for it, right? So, anyways, I close with that. Certainly going to miss him, but I definitely think that, as Rick mentioned, the way that his last words and the way that this his life ended, in my mind, and I take a lot of comfort in this, I think it was perfect. He did not want to have to go live in a home 24/7, so that didn't happen. He was never in pain, so he was spared of ever being in pain, and he believed, whether you believe it or not, that his wife was coming to get him, and he's with her now. So I think it ended for him as perfect as you know these things could be, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you for your beautiful words and your memories. When you are visiting with the family, you'll be sharing some of these memories and some of your own stories. And we know and we believe as Jews that each time we remember our loved ones, we mention their name, their soul, their neshama receives an elevation closer to God. And that is really our goal for your dad, for your grandfather, for your great-grandfather, for your brother, that his soul is always elevated. So I know you've heard a lot of words and a lot I'm not going to say because you got me, so I don't have to say it, but thank you. But I want you to know that something I learned, that Murel was a twin. He was a twin with Chester, and he grew up with his brothers and his sister all in the Glenville area, and they were raised separately. They all went to different places because their dad had a stroke and was unable to care for them sufficiently. And that's kind of a traumatic thing, but each one of these children created wonderful lives for themselves and for their families. And I don't know if everybody would be able to do that, but that was perseverance. I know that he joined the service, and I know, Rick, you mentioned about Elvis Presley, but you forgot to say what you told me. He hated Elvis Presley. So that's why he didn't care about it. It's kind of cute to think of Elvis Presley. We talked about his hard work. We talked about the ethics of work that he taught all of you, but Sherry, you mentioned that he always he wasn't a snappy dresser, not a fashionista. He actually just had to have a pocket tee to put receipts in. He always had his receipt in his pocket. And I know that you mentioned that he adored his grandchildren. He adored, that really became his main focus later in his life. I know that this last year his health was declining, and all of you rallied. His whole family rallied around him to support and care for him, but none more than you, Sherry. Your daily visits, your constant care, you most certainly prolonged his life. You gave him an extra 6 months, to be exact, defying what the doctors had expected. And you allowed him to live out his final days, his months, his last hours with great dignity. And that was a gift to him and a gift to you. And now we say a final farewell, and we are grateful for his life and his accomplishments, and we pray that all that was good and kind in his life will continue to inspire and guide all of us in the days and the years ahead. We ask that God let him rest in peace, and we all say, I'm going to ask all of you to rise. We learn from the words of Job, Adonai natan ve'Adonai lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, and now God has taken Murel away. Blessed be the name of God. El marachamim, shochem amromim, hametzeh menucha nechona, tachat kanfei shchina, im kedoshim utorim, kezor harakia matirim. Et nishmat Moshe ben Chaim HaKohen shalach le'olamo. Bal harachamim yastirehu beseter kanafal le'olamim. Pitror b'tzrachayim et nishmato, Adonai hu nachato. Yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Murel, son of Hyman and Sarah, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance, may he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. Dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we now lay within the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our departed Murel Feinberg. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. Say to you, Murel, Lech kishilachacha Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech ve'Adonai yeh imach, go your way, and may God be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Adonai ya'asvecha. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. In a moment, we will recite the words of Kaddish, the memorial prayer, which do not mention a word about death. It tells us that even in our most difficult moments, we know that God has given us strength to get through these moments. After we say the words of Kaddish, we will invite the family to begin to cover the grave. It's a tradition that we do as Jews. We know it's a high mitzvah, it's the highest honor, because Murel cannot pay you back. We cannot say thank you. And we do this with our loving hands, just as he raised all of you and cared for all of you with his loving hands. Join together with the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei tuchol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam v'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei v'kudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata shama v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rama min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom imrumav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God grant peace and comfort to those who are bereaved. Amen ve'amen. We ask the immediate family, if you'd like to at this point, come forward to begin to cover the grave.
Come on, take some dirt.
He doesn't have one himself.
All right, friends, this is going to conclude the services here at the gravesite. If you'd allow the family to pass back to the car, let the family continue to shovel. After the family's gone back, any of you who wish may place shovelfuls of earth as well.
Don't put the shovel back in. Don't hand it to anybody. Okay.
Yeah, we're putting in a case for you.
Today.
Right here.